They're pretty deep questions. First of all, let's just go back to the roots of what brings us here. What are the impacts of the fall of the wall, of the Berlin Wall? I would say that, to paraphrase Chu and Lai's response to the question, what was the impact of the French Revolution, one could very easily say it's too early to tell. But even though history is moving much, much faster now than it used to, we really do need to look at some of the impacts that we've already seen. I haven't heard, maybe I missed an intervention or two, but I haven't heard anyone connect the fall of the Berlin Wall with the fall of the American Wall, which is Wall Street. But I believe there's a very direct connection. I believe that when Mr. Reagan came to Berlin and said, "Tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev," he actually was signing his own death warrant, his own economy's death warrant. Because in a sense, what happened after that, the Americans thought they could go into free market capitalism unabashed. They went into insane policies of deregulation, of complete opening of an economy that could never work. And they did so because they had this newfound sense of confidence that they had won. Their system was better. And so why not go all the way? So in a sense, we've got already one huge impact of the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is the fall of Lehman Brothers, the fall of virtually the entire system, which unfortunately hasn't been learned, the lessons of which haven't been learned yet. But the vulnerability of runaway free predatory capitalism is more or less the same as the other one. The fall of the Berlin Wall was an example, really, of what a Dutch economist once called the fall of the economies who are ruled by the laws of the zoo. They live in cages, they're told what to do, they're fed every day, etc. The fall of the Lehman Brothers, the Wall Street, was the fall of the economies that were ruled by the law of the jungle. Complete laissez-faire. And I think we need to learn that we are in the middle of a huge transition. Many previous speakers have talked about it. You yourself, Mr. Chairman, talked about it. But these are much deeper than the ones I think you've been mentioning. I don't think that Westphalia was only about territorial and sovereignty. It was a lot about the way of thinking. It preserved, enshrined, in fact legitimized, the notion that had existed already for 5,000 years, that the ruled have a right to rule, and the rulers have the right to rule, and the ruled have to be subjects to that rule, which was accepted by both sides. Ironically, each one accepted the state of affairs. There was no question of telling the Pharaoh, "You have no right to rule me." What Westphalia did 360 years ago was just make it legitimate. And what happened was the whole set of issues of territoriality of nations, of colonization, of essentially carving out the world between the various powers, was only a manifestation of a much deeper set of thinking. Really, the sovereignty was about the sovereignty of subjects and topics and the way we handle knowledge. The sovereignty was of compartmentalization between the areas of disciplines of thinking, and indeed of the mind and the body. I mean, the mind and matter, which essentially were all related together. The Cartesian basis of the Westphalian Treaty essentially may have preceded it, but was essentially the same thing. Now, I think what we're going to be seeing as a result of the fall of the wall is much deeper thinking about what was the legitimization. The West has had wonderful achievements. We're not unaware of the great improvement in the lives of people, the fulfillment that many people in the world now have come from Western science, they come from Western democracies, they come from many things. But there's a lot of fundamental self-contradictions within these ways of thinking. The West basically is proud, particularly Europe and the New World, of its commitment to the Greco-Judeo-Christian traditions, human rights, democracy, fairness, distributive justice, truth, beauty. These are all things that they say this is what makes our civilization. But they have betrayed every one of them. They're betraying them right now in the discussions in Copenhagen, completely. They've thrown all the things they claim to be proud of. The Copenhagen discussions are a total direct attack on logic, on human rights. What's a human right? Human right is an individual right. It cannot be a national right. Now, if they'd say that India produces more carbon dioxide than Switzerland, and therefore India must do more than Switzerland, does that make sense? And they're denying the possibility, right to the wire, of basing it on per capita, because, of course, it doesn't suit them. So all this commitment to these wonderful philosophical and ethical traditions that we claim are actually being thrown overboard at the moment's notice when they become inconvenient. That's why Al Gore entitled his film Inconvenient Truth.